The film begins with the main character named Byung-do, who is a middle-class gangster working for a local mafia organization. Although he is a gangster, he is very fond of his mother and two younger siblings. In the gangster organization, Byung-do has several subordinates under him, including a man named Jang-soo who is his confidant. Currently, they are going through a difficult time where they are having financial difficulties after poor business luck. They even struggle to make ends meet, but their brotherly bond keeps them together through the tough times. After successfully collecting the debt from his client, Byung-do went to his immediate superior named Sang-chul to hand over the money. His boss gave a small portion of the money to him and his subordinates. Byung-do begs him to share a little more as his men struggle to survive. Furthermore, he needs money for his own family, who will be evicted soon from their home. But his boss becomes angry. It seems like he doesn't take care of his guys and keeps the income of the money collections for himself. Later, Byung-do meets with the organization leader, President Hwang. He praises him for his performance on the recent job. He then invites him to drink with him. President Hwang is different from Sang-chul. He seems to be more caring for his subordinate. He even tells Sang-chul to let Byung-do manage a new gambling game room they are about to open after knowing Byung-do and his men are struggling. When they are enjoying their time, President Hwang gets a call from a public prosecutor who has been bothersome to him for a while. President Hwang asks Sang-chul to eliminate him. But Sang-chul doesn't dare to play fire with a public prosecutor, so he politely declines. At that time, Byung-do still doesn't dare to cross his direct superior, so he stays silent. On the next day, they celebrate the opening of the new gambling game room. Byung-do and Jang-soo are slightly relieved as they now have a little extra income to support them. Suddenly, Byung-do's best friend from elementary school, Min-ho, shows up. They go to a nearby cafe to catch up with each other. Min-ho is a movie director, and his current project is a gangster film. To improve the film's authenticity, he interviews Byung-do, who he sees as a real gangster. But suddenly, Byung-do gets a call. A rival gang is attacking his new gambling game room. He rushes back, but it's already too late. They had already destroyed the place and retreated. Sang-chul decides to declare war and tells Byung-do to gather forces. Byung-do got ambushed by the rival gang on the way to the meeting point. They are outnumbered, but Byung-do and Jang-soo fight side by side and fight back. Sang-chul and the reinforcement come late but manage to control the situation. Amidst the chaos, Sang-chul accidentally stabbed one of the enemies. Beating up each other is one thing, but killing is a whole other level. They can get into trouble with the police for it. President Hwang assesses the situation with Sang-chul and Byung-do. Sang-chul decides to pay some compensation to the rival gang, and Young Pil, his subordinate with the same rank as Byung-do, will go to jail on his behalf. He also decides to let Young Pil's men run the gambling game room as a reward for covering his ass. It makes Byung-do disappointed as he loses the source of income he needed so badly. Byung-do begs him to reconsider, but Sang-chul lets him down once again. Byung-do drives President Hwang home after he finishes his meeting with insert name, Prosecutor Park, the one who has bothered him for some time. He talks about his problem with Byung-do and shares his wisdom with him, making them a little bit closer. On the way back, Byung-do realizes it can't go on like this, as he does carry responsibility for his boys and his family. He needs a way to boost his career, so he goes back to President Huang's house and takes the job to eliminate the prosecutor. He then discusses it with his most trusted man, Jiang Su. Although it is risky, Jiang Su trusts Byung-doo's decision and follows his plan. On the next day, Min-ho takes Byung-doo to the elementary school reunion. He plans to reunite Byung-doo with his school-era love interest, Hyun-ju. Byung-doo finds that he still has an interest in her and attempts to rekindle their relationship.
오늘 참 좋다. 그래?
But as they enjoy their time together, Jang-soo calls him. He has gathered enough information and is ready to execute their plan. So they start following the prosecutor and wait for the right moment. Although it's their first hit job, they perform the plan flawlessly. After he eliminates the prosecutor, Byung-doo receives the money he was hoping for in addition to President Hwang's respect and a spot at his side. They swear never to speak of it to anyone so they, and the organization, will not be implicated. Sang-chul becomes aware of the murder and feels threatened by Byung-doo's subversion of his authority and lack of consideration for the organization. So he summons him to vaguely ask him about the matter. But as he promised to President Hwang, he pretends not to know about the incident. So Sang-chul plans to set up a hit to take him out. But Byung-doo is brighter than he thinks. Back at his base, Byung-doo is having a feast and party with his men. Money is no longer a problem, but another greater problem has arrived. Byung-doo knows Sang-chul might go after him now. So they decide to strike first. Meanwhile, as they prepare their plan, Byung-doo helps Min-ho gather material for his movie. He welcomes them to his base to talk with his subordinate to understand more about the gangster's life. Byung-doo also tries to start to approach Hyun-ju at the bookstore where she works. It is now the wedding day of Sang-chul's sister. Byung-doo and his men are planning to execute their plan there. They act normal and wait for the right moment. First, his men kidnap and take down Young Pil. Now that his trusty man is not there to protect him, Byung-doo follows Sang-chul to the toilet and eliminates him while he is alone. After that, his life is better than ever. He climbs through rank and gets enough money to move out from his old house. Now that he is not a low-ranked gangster anymore, he has more confidence and tries to approach Hyun-ju once again. He then takes her on a dinner date after work hours. As he climbs to rank, Byung-doo now has been trusted with the real estate business of the organization and works in a fancy office. Min-ho congratulates him as they talk more about his upcoming movie. President Hwang has a request for him. His daughter wants to be an actress, so President Hwang wants her to be cast for the film. Min-ho gladly accepts the request. On the next day, Byung-doo bought shoes for Hyun-ju. When he is about to give it to her, he sees her arguing with her manager. It turns out they had a relationship in the past. The manager became jealous when he saw her with Byung-doo earlier. So he tries to force her back to him. Seeing that, Byung-doo tries to help her out of the situation. But the manager keeps insisting. It makes his gangster soul snap and beat the shit out of him. Although Byung-doo is practically defending her, his gangster tendencies frighten Hyun-ju. She doesn't want to see him anymore. It really breaks his heart as he realizes not everyone can accept his way of life. He drinks like a fish to forget it all and calls Min-ho for help. At the lowest point of his heart, he ends up revealing to Min-ho his deepest, darkest secrets, including the hits on both Attorney Park and his former boss, hoping it will somehow relieve his burden.
너도 누구 찔러본 적 있냐?
그거 평생 간다.
야, 넌 대체 누굴 그랬길래 이러는 거야?
Life goes on, and now President Hwang assigns him to an important job. If Byung-doo can help him force some landlords to sell their land so they can use it to build a grand apartment, President Hwang will give him a share of the grand plan profit, worth hundreds of billions won. He will finally start making some serious cash after all those sacrifices. So he and his men start harassing all those landlords. Meanwhile, Byung-do brings Min-ho to meet President Hwang. They enjoy their time talking about the upcoming movie where President Hwang's daughter will play as he promised. Byung-do still doesn't want to give up Hyun-ju, so he goes to her workplace. But it seems she has skipped work for some days now. He goes to her place and finds her lying weak in her room. Byung-do immediately brings her to a hospital and takes care of her on the following days. Another rival gang found out about their plan and bought some of the lands before them. Byung-do tries to handle them, but he gets kidnapped instead. Fortunately, he manages to fight back and track down the rest of them. With that, he successfully presents all of the landlord's approval to President Hwang. Feeling great, he goes to the movie set to check how his friend's film is doing. He shows the actors how to fight like a real gangster and makes Min-ho promise to make the film with the true gangster spirit.
종수야, 일로 와봐. 이렇게 깔아가지고 확 꽂아버려야 돼. 이거거든.
At night, he tries his luck again and brings a bouquet for Hyun-ju. She starts to see that despite being a gangster, Byung-do still has a good side left.
매번 받기만 하네.
너 왜 행운모 보냈었잖아. 그거 뽑히면 좋은 일 생긴다던데. 만약에 진짜 좋은 일 생기면 그거 다 네 덕이다.
They go on a fancy date and enjoy their time. When Byung-do takes her home, he can't resist kissing her passionately. The only barrier between their relationship is Byung-do's wild lifestyle. But he promises her he will leave them all just to be with her. But can't he truly escape his gangster life? Min-ho's movie has been released. At the premiere, President Hwang congratulates and thanks him for casting his daughter. Meanwhile, Byung-do is having dinner with his family and Hyun-ju. After seeing the movie's premiere, President Hwang calls him and tells him to see the movie immediately. Something seems wrong. Soon Byung-do discovers the film reenacts many of the events from Byung-do's past, including the hit on Attorney Park. Min-ho uses what Byung-do told him secretly. He immediately confronts Min-ho about it. The film doesn't explicitly show their identity, but it proves Min-ho can't be trusted. He warns him of the consequences if he leaks out any more information. Jang-soo suggests eliminating Min-ho, since the risk is too high. But it makes him angry, and he chooses to spare Min-ho's life.
내일이니까 넌 빠지라고.
Against Byung-do's order, Jang-soo kidnaps Min-ho. But not to kill him, they just play with him to warn him. Byung-do reports to President Hwang everything is under control, as he never mentions any name to Min-ho in his story anyway. So they proceed to celebrate the success of the grand apartment plan. But unknown to them, what Jang-soo has done has awoken something deep inside Min-ho. On the next day, Byung-do meets Hyun-ju to give her a special gift. Suddenly, a police force came to arrest him. He barely manages to escape, leaving Hyun-ju in confusion. At that moment, he knows his best friend has sold him out to the police. He stays low, meets President Hwang at night, and promises to set things right by eliminating Min-ho then leaving the country. But it won't be an easy task. Min-ho's movie was a hit, and he has become a big figure now. Byung-do then meets his trusty man Young-soo. He regrets not hearing his suggestion. But it is what it is. Jang-soo is willing to help him clean up the situation, no matter what. As second in command, Byung-do leaves his men to him after he is gone. Byung-do starts to move to assassinate Min-ho at a party. Min-ho manages to escape, but Byung-doo's man captures him outside of the building. Byung-doo then goes to where his subordinate is supposed to take Min-ho. But upon arrival, an unknown group appears and attacks him. Despite being heavily outnumbered, he fights back and stumbles away from the attackers but is heavily wounded. He is glad when his subordinate arrives at the scene. But out of nowhere, his subordinate stabs him. They betray and kill him, which appears to be led by his own most trusted right hand, Jang-soo. The movie ends with President Hwang and Min-ho discussing future movie ideas. But he vaguely warns him. A fiction should remain a fiction. Jang-soo joins the meeting, taking Byung-doo's position at President Hwang's side.